This podcast is part of the Batman Universe Podcast Network, hosted by the BatmanUniverse.net. Check out everything related to Batman and the entire Bat family at the BatmanUniverse.net, including news and original content related to comics, movies, television, merchandise, video games, and more. Also, check out some of the other unique podcasts that TBU has to offer. Consider supporting this podcast by becoming a patron on Patreon. Even $1 can go a long way in supporting this content that you enjoy. Look for a link over at thebatmanuniverse.net to offer your support now. And now, on with the show.
Yeah, you know what it is.
Sup, Bat-Fans? You're watching Gotham Cribs. And today I'm taking you on a sick tour of Wayne Manor. Let's go. The most tasteful and insanely extravagant mansion in all of Gotham City. And for those of you wondering, yes, the rumors are true. I am Bruce Wayne's roommate. And speaking of old Bruno, I think I see my roomie right over there. Yo, B-Money. What's up, my billionaire playboy? Hey, Batman. Thanks for being such a great host and iconic superhero. I'm privileged to know you. Now let's start the tour.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Tim, former GameStop employee. This is episode 196. I am that former GameStop employee, Tim. Joining me on this episode, as always, is Dane. Dane, how's it going?
You know, I've been wondering recently. So you know how in GameStop they try to upsell you, like, oh, you bought the new, I don't know, Doom game or whatever. Do you want the strategy guide? Do you want the
you get 20% off the strategy guide when you buy it with the game.
Yeah. Do you want the Game Informer subscription? Do you want to be a club member? So what if you have all that already? Like you say, I'm a member. I have a Game Informer subscription. I want the Doom Eternal, and I want the strategy guide. So what's the upsell after that?
After that, we were always told, oh, what new game you want to pre-order today? What's coming out in the near future that you want to pre-order right now? Now that you're picking up Doom. Okay. So that's the thing they always taught us to do after the release of a new game. Yep.
So what if I said, oh, and also I want to pre-order Final Fantasy VII Remake?
Oh, perfect. And then that's good.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's maximizing your whole script then.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, you could throw in another controller. Well, before it used to be memory cards, but you don't really need those now.
Used games? Like, oh, did you see any used games that you...
Not really. Not when they were buying new games. If you had a used copy of it, you would try to promote that instead. You would say, I have a used copy of this. Do you want to get that instead? It's $5 cheaper. Plus, if you have a membership, you'd save an additional 10%. I'm not sure if it's still 10% right now, but that's how it was when I was working there.
Oh, I see. So how would you have a used copy of Doom Eternal, let's say, which came out this past Friday? We
would get that sometimes where a new game would come out, and the day later, sometimes even the day of, someone would either beat it and trade it in, try to get the maximum value of it, or they didn't like it and they couldn't return it for a full refund, so they just traded in for something else. So then you get a used copy of it. It happened more often than you would think.
I see. Tricky. You really have to pay attention to what's going on, right? Mm-hmm. Like, oh no, I want that new copy. I don't want the used copy. I don't want the strategy guide, and I don't want the Game Informer's subscription.
Yeah, I always tried to, say it, but at the same time, don't try to be annoying to the customers where you're just trying to add on certain things. Say your spiel, and if they say no, move on and just complete the transaction.
Yeah, but you go anywhere in retail, and that's what they try to do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they even tried to do that at banks, right? With the savings accounts or loans or whatever.
That's true, yeah. It's just a part of the game, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, so things are a little crazy out there right now with everything that's going on with the coronavirus and people being quarantined. But I'm curious how things are with that in Hawaii, Dane, because I know, as you probably heard, California is almost a complete lockdown.
Right.
Just encouraging everyone to stay home. But How are things in Hawaii with that?
You see, I'm curious now. So I'm not sure what this whole lockdown thing is. So you can't go to work then,
My hours have been reduced as of
right?
Friday, but that was before that they kind of said everyone to be on a lockdown and everyone should stay home besides the essential businesses.
Right.
So I'm not sure what's going to happen next week. Maybe I won't go in at all. I'm not sure. But for right now, I'm still scheduled to go in for 4 days out of the week, working 6-hour days.
Yeah. Yeah. So me too. My schedule is reduced. Um, no lockdown yet. I think there's like 30 or 40 cases of coronavirus here. Um, I know the governor is saying, if you're visiting, if you have plans to vacation, don't come. And
That
I
would be
think,
smart. Yeah.
yeah, I think they're trying to do a thing. If you even visit a neighbor island or you're coming from the mainland, it's going to be a 14-day quarantine.
Mm.
So that's it for now. I mean, and I'm hoping it doesn't get any worse. I hope it just stays as it is. But you look at California, you look at New York, and it's just getting worse and
Yeah.
worse and worse. And you look at Italy, the whole country is locked down.
Yeah, it's just crazy and just awful.
Yeah, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. So I don't know what to think. It's seems like it's just getting steadily worse, and it's gonna be a lockdown. And,
I know that's what
yeah,
it seems like. It's kind of scary to think about where eventually the whole country would be on
right,
lockdown. So it's like people just gotta, heed and take the advice that everyone's saying to do to stay home now and don't
yeah,
try to, like they said, go out only for the essentials, food and all that type of stuff. But
right.
you know,
Well, there is an advantage that I have that you don't, and that's being in one of the most isolated places on Earth. So
that is
that's
true.
that's pretty. That maybe that'll work in my advantage, but not the way it doesn't seem like it right now.
Yeah. So interesting times to say the least, but hopefully
Yeah.
everyone stays healthy and safe. But in our featured topic for this episode, it's going to deal with obviously a lot of people are being home more often now in quarantine. So we're going to be talking about some things to do while you're quarantined, what we've been watching, reading, listening to, and maybe recommend some stuff and vice versa. But before we get into that, we got to start the show, as always, with our Dark Knight Rises minute by minute commentary. And on this episode, we are going from the 144 minute to the 145th minute, or the 2 hour and 24-minute mark to the 2 hour and 25-minute mark. So, as always, grab your DVD, your VHS, your Laserdisc, your beta tape, your Blu-ray, your projector, your Blockbuster membership video card, your Netflix physical media subscription, and as always, if I'm not forgetting anything, your VHS to DVD converter. I mean, you're going to need that more than ever now
Yeah,
because you're watching more movies and stuff while we're home. You need that
definitely.
great quality of the VHS to DVD version.
I forgot to say a joke, Tim, that I've been preparing and thinking about ever since this whole coronavirus thing got
Mm.
serious.
Okay,
So, are you ready?
I'm ready for it.
Okay. So, coronavirus is going around, right? And people are saying all over social media, everywhere on the news, your coworkers, your bosses, your family members, right? Your
Mhm.
friends, they're telling you to wash your hands. So I've been washing my hands, and my hands are really dry. They look like the Emperor's hands
Yeah.
in The Rise of Skywalker before he does the Force thing.
Oh, welcome to my world, Dave. That's me
Yeah.
even before this whole thing started. I would always wash my hands like crazy, use hand sanitizer. And
Yeah.
now I always felt like people think I'm a little too overblown doing that, neurotic about it. But now I feel like I was ahead of the curb doing that
Yeah.
before this whole crisis started.
I think you were, Tim. I think you're the originator of the Emperor Palpatine hands.
The original crusty Emperor Palpatine.
Your tips of your fingers are falling off, and you're blind for some reason.
I haven't gotten that far yet, but I don't know. Eventually, I might have to start watching them to that. Get to
Why
that level.
why was he blind?
I think it's just part of that body being unstable.
Oh.
And I'm just going through the novel right now. I'm only a few chapters in, but you probably heard where that was a clone body.
Oh, that was?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think I saw some. That was like a clone of the Emperor or something, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what is it about that then?
So I just
Is
think they
it?
probably can't maybe get it perfected just right to where it would be a full version, like complete version of it.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm just a few chapters in. I'm not sure how much they'll dive into that. I've kind of stayed away from details on the novel until I read it, so maybe they'll go further into that. But so
So
I guess
that
it's not a
wasn't.
perfected clone body of the Emperor just yet.
So that wasn't the Emperor then.
His spirit and life force was Palpatine's. So that's I
Oh,
think the
like
line where the dark side of the force is a pathway to many abilities, some consider to be unnatural, plays into that. So not his body, but his life force is in there.
see, that's what I mean. I don't mean to sound like all of these Star Wars fans that just bash the new trilogy, but that's what's getting a little on my nerves is they're constantly adding things to the movie, and is it really necessary? Can we just have that movie or no? Do
To
do we
me,
have to have that? Oh, it was a clone. Oh, uh, Ben Solo is in Rey now. You know,
I don't know about that part with Ben and Ray, but I mean,
I thought I thought I thought I read something
you can
about
think
that.
of that if you want. I mean, that's one of those things where I'm not sure if the novel fully explicitly says that, but it's one of those things where you can interpret it that way. But
Yeah,
I'm with you on the whole thing with Palpatine being a clone as information they don't really need it. But I know a lot of people did want more information about that. I was
yeah,
perfectly fine with that line that I just said about the dark side of the Force being a pathway to many abilities that are unnatural. That's all he needed to say for me to be fine with how he survived because we've seen it with Darth Maul. So we don't need full
yeah.
explanations with that. But if they're going to give it to us, I'll take it. And I know a lot of people were kind of happy that we got this information. So I don't know, I guess it depends on your point of view as far as how much you want to explain to you when it comes to this stuff.
Well, I mean, I guess if Star Wars fans needed that explanation of what that Emperor was or how he was made or whatever, then that's I guess that's okay.
Yeah, it's all depends on your interpretation, I guess. But it's out there
Yeah.
now if you want it, or you could choose to ignore it.
You see, I'm gonna say now this is just my theory, Tim. Don't worry, it doesn't make any sense at all. I think that was a hologram of the Emperor.
Wow, talk about a letdown.
Yeah. So the Emperor just did a Sauron, right?
So,
Where
we
he's
call
just the eye thing, right?
yeah, I was gonna say I don't recall Sauron ever being a hologram, but
No, no, no. I meant like he was just that eye thing. Like Sauron's body died
uh,
when in the beginning montage with
yeah,
Kate Blanchett narrating. So he died there, but then his spirit or whatever is in the eye
I and in the ring.
and in the ring, right?
So I
Well,
guess that
yeah,
Palpatine recorded all that stuff that we saw in the Rise of Skywalker beforehand, and the hologram is just playing old footage of him, I guess.
yeah. Because if you think about it, what do you really know about the dark side of the Force, Tim? Not much, right?
Mm,
So, what is to say that he could have foreseen all of this and sort of made messages in a hologram to kind of insert himself into the future. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
he actually did something similar like that in some of the comics, and even in the Battlefront 2 campaign, the Operation Cinder, where he record these video message of what happened in the time of his death, and they would play in these droids. Like they'd have these empty faces, and then a projection would come out of Palpatine's video message, telling his different Imperial officers what to do and kind of these contingency plans for what would happen in case he died. So he did something a little similar like that, but not the eventual long game that he had for what he did in the Rise of Skywalker. But
See, I think I cracked it, Tim.
A portion of it, I would say you did.
Nobody else predicted this except for me, Tim.
And the comics and video game that came before it.
Dang it. But anyway,
yes. Yeah. Eventually we'll have to do a Rise of Skywalker minute-by-minute commentary after whatever we decide on for our next one.
Yeah, I think we do.
Yes. But until then, we still got a few more minutes for The Dark Knight Rises. So, are you ready, Dane?
Yes, I am.
All right. 3, 2, 1, play. So we're picking up from last episode's cliffhanger if John Blake will make it across the bridge. And no. Sadly, this is a little more timely than we were probably expecting it to be as we got to this portion of the movie in our commentaries with Gotham being quarantined and the bridge is being blown up.
I know. How appropriate.
Yeah. But this is always a cool action scene that we got for the climactic ending of the movie with the bat. Though yeah. I've never seen it in IMAX, but I've heard that section looked incredible with it. But it looks amazing just even on the Blu-rays and the 4Ks where it's filling your screen up. It just looks really cool.
I hope they really tied down that bomb, in that truck.
You don't want it flying off anywhere, and it just goes off.
You shouldn't be driving like that. How did that tumbler miss? How's that tumbler missing?
The driver just might not be that used to it or unexperienced with it, but that's funny. Batman's not going to go out that way. He's going to sacrifice himself. That's how it has to end. All right, so that's our minute-by-minute commentary for this episode, and that can bring us into our featured topic, which I alluded to earlier is going to be things to binge while quarantined or stuck at home during this time period. So, going to go ahead and list some movies, TV shows, comics, novels, podcasts, music, whatever we're doing or listening to or doing to pass the time. Maybe recommend some stuff for you guys to do, and maybe Dane will check some of the stuff I mentioned, or maybe I'll check out the stuff Dane's mentioning. So, but I guess I'll break it down in different categories, starting with movies to watch. And I know I could easily just say, watch the entire Star Wars saga, watch the Dark Knight trilogy, watch the MCU films. You can binge that. But I'm going to do something a little different because I actually just started doing something about a few months ago. And I'm kind of early on into it.
Oh, wait, Tim, can I make a joke right here?
You never have to ask if you want to make a joke.
Okay, so you said you just started doing something that you've never done before, right? So I'm going to say, what, showering?
Oh.
I'm sorry, I just had to do it.
You could smell me through the podcast through Skype, huh? Yeah. It's not bad. So.
Yeah, my smell-o-vision is working fine.
Darn it, Dane, you revealed my greatest secret and shame. How dare you?
Yeah, you wash your hands like crazy, but your body.
Yeah,
never.
That's so different. I mean, I don't want to fully look like Palpatine, so it's just the hands.
Yeah, just the hands.
All right. But besides that, something on the movie front that I've done. Now, a lot of this stuff I'll probably mention is these are going to be on streaming services like Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix, the DC Universe app. So when Disney Plus came out and a bunch of their classic movies are going to be on there, something I always wanted to do, but now I've started, was watch every Disney animated film from the beginning up until what the last one is, the current ones. So starting with the very first one, Snow White, and making my way up through all the animated classics. And it's been really cool because I'm kind of still early into it, right? The last movie I watched was Alice in Wonderland, which is, I don't know the exact sequence number, but there's like, I would say around 5 or 6, something like that. And it's just been cool to revisit those classic movies. I mean, they are classics. The animation is still amazes me. Movies like Pinocchio, how it was all just hand drawn. It looked so beautiful for the time that they were doing it. Just all the work the artists and animators had to do to make that movie look as beautiful as it did, and it still holds up to this day. And you could say that for a lot of them. So it's just kind of cool to go through from the very beginning and seeing the progression of the animation and the different movies and the styles that are on there. So if anyone's never done that yet, this is the perfect time to do it with Disney Plus having all those classic movies available now, and just kind of going through the history of Disney and their animated movies, and just reliving great moments as a kid watching them for the first time, and just appreciating them now as an adult, just the artistry and the craftsmanship that went into making these movies. So that's something I would recommend doing, is starting from the very beginning with Snow White and just working your way through all the animated classics. So that's one movie aspect of something you can maybe start binging or watching that maybe you haven't thought of before, along with rewatching Star Wars and all the superhero movies again for the millionth time. But that's something I've been doing. It's been a lot of fun, so I would recommend doing that.
Yeah, I just can't do Fantasia.
Is it just?
I remember it scaring me as a kid.
Oh, the final one with I forget the monster's name.
I can't even remember what scared me about it. But I just can't do it. I can't. I've never gone back to it. I mean, I know it's just a kid's cartoon or whatever, but I just can't do it.
It's Mickey and the walking brooms and buckets, right? That's what freaked you out.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say that, but yeah, I just don't know. But yeah,
it is different, obviously, just being music based with the different animated sequences. But yeah, I never really got freaked out by it. But I can understand how maybe you could, especially with the ending. With I want to say it's a cherub bog, but now it's gonna bug me that I don't remember that creature's name. But I gotta look it up.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, but yeah, I don't know.
We'll get that answer for you though.
Yeah, what is it? What is it, Tim?
It is the Chernobog.
Chernobog.
I knew it was sounding kind of strange, but I had it at the tip of my tongue, but just not quite there. It's a great design, though. I love the design of it. I mean, his wings is almost like a bat creature, really. It's something you can see where someone gets or get the scarecrow gas dosed on him, and they see Batman, and he looks like this creature. I could totally see that being a look for someone being scared of Batman and picturing him looking like that.
Yeah, I just can't do Fantasia. Even Snow White, I can't. I mean, I remember it freaking me out for some reason.
That I could see with the Queen turning into the
right.
Bridge, yeah. I mean, just the transformation sequence. Watching it again, it's something that the animators did such a great job in just selling how creepy that transformation was, and the way she walks and moves. It's just really, really well done to make you feel that way.
Or even like Sid's room in Toy Story. The first one. Yeah, I remember fast forwarding through those parts when, I had the VHS tape. I guess I was a really timid little kid.
At least when it comes to animated films, huh?
I guess so.
What is your favorite animated Disney movie, if you have one?
Are we including Pixar?
I would say no.
Okay.
Because when I'm doing this rewatch, I'm not including the Pixar films. That'll be a separate rewatch that I'll probably do.
Probably
or not even rewatch, because there's a lot of Pixar movies I haven't seen yet. So
right. Probably The Lion King is my favorite.
Excellent choice.
Yeah.
I go back and forth between The Lion King or Aladdin, because those are the ones that growing up I just watched and listened to the music constantly.
Right. Yeah, Aladdin was another big one too. But as for the classic ones, I'd probably say Pinocchio.
Oh man, I was saying the same thing. Yep.
Yeah, I was watching Pinocchio a lot. Yeah.
That to me, like I said before, that's just so beautiful to watch. The way that you could just talk about the underwater sequence with Monstro, but then just even the town and the village and just the Pleasure Island sequence, everything about it looks so great. Attention to detail was, really, they paid no expense that Walt Disney did for that one. It's just really, really amazing. And it sucks that it really didn't do good in the box office.
Really?
I think he actually lost money with it.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's considered a classic now, obviously, but when it first came out, I don't think it really came close to what Snow White did.
What about Dumbo? Did did you watch Dumbo a lot when you were a kid?
I did. I really like
Yeah,
Dumbo, and just watching it again, to me, it's an underrated Disney film.
yeah.
It's really short. It's not. I think it barely cracks an hour, but I love it, and it's one of the few movies, probably the most movie where I just flat out cried my eyes out as a little kid.
Right,
The moment where
right.
he's saying hi to his mother who's locked up in the cage and they're saying
Yeah.
the song Baby Mine. That wrecked me as a kid. And even now when I watch, I get a lump in my throat seeing it.
What about did you cry during Bambi?
Surprisingly not. No.
Yeah, me neither. I know a lot of people have like, this thing. I mean, when Bambi's mom gets shot, but
Mm,
I don't remember it affecting me as a kid.
me neither. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna take your advice, Tim. I think I'm gonna rewatch all of the Disney movies.
Yeah, definitely do it. You'll
Yeah.
not necessarily gain, maybe you will gain a new appreciation for it, but it just reliving those classic movies is just great. It kind of
Mm,
takes you back to when you were young and enjoying those movies but yet you're still enjoying them as an adult too. Just a testament to how great they were. So
yeah.
yeah, right now the next one I got to watch is Peter Pan, which I'm looking forward to. I always like that one, but
Yeah.
it's been a while since I've seen it.
You see, I don't even remember seeing Peter Pan, but I do remember watching Hook a lot.
Same here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Hook. That's kind of looked upon by some people, not everyone, as one of
Right.
Spielberg's.
Weakest film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even he himself hates it, which is like, nah, don't
Really?
say that, Spielberg. Yeah,
Oh,
I
I
think.
thought I mean, I haven't gone back to it, but I remember loving that film as a kid.
Yeah, me too. It's a great story to have to do with Peter Pan. Have him be grown up and go back and kind of forget who he was. It's such a great concept. And
Right, right.
I would say one of John Williams' most underrated film scores. I love the soundtrack for that movie.
Yeah.
It's really, really good.
Did he do that one after Jurassic Park or before Jurassic Park?
Before,
Before Jurassic Park.
yeah. Mhm.
Oh, I see. Oh yeah, right. Because Jurassic Park and then Schindler's List and
Yeah, I can't do
then
those at the same time.
yeah. Wow. What a contrast.
I know, really.
And then after Schindler's List, he did Lost World.
I think so. Did he have something in between? Because that was a pretty long gap between Jurassic Park and The Lost World. It was like 4 years. I think he might have done something else in between there.
Because I thought he was burnt out because of Jurassic Park and Schindler's List.
That's true.
Yeah.
There's that really good Spielberg documentary on HBO,
Yeah.
which came out a few years ago, which kind of chronicalized all his projects, which was really cool. But I can't remember what came between those. But now it's another thing I want to look up.
Yeah.
But I guess while I do that, do you have any movie picks to recommend, Dane?
Um. Well, I haven't really been locked down, so I think that's the problem. But I did see 1917.
Okay.
It's really good. I mean, you can kind of tell where they cut. Like, I mean, it is long takes, but you can tell when they cut.
So it's not fully a one take movie then.
No, no, and there is an actual cut. Like the screen goes black, right in the middle of the movie. And there's somebody at the end that I didn't expect, or I didn't even know it wasn't even in the movie, which is really cool. But yeah, it's a really good movie. It's a war movie. It's it it kind of makes me thankful for editors because there's some scenes where they're just walking, like they're just walking to the tree or something, right? And usually they would cut out a big chunk of that walk, right? But
Yeah.
they're trying to do the one take thing, and you know it they have to walk to that tree, right? So yeah, that gets a little annoying, but overall it's a really good movie.
Yeah, that's one I wanted to try to see in theaters, but never got a chance to. So I'll probably definitely see that pretty soon now that it's available to
Yeah.
buy or rent or whatever. But yeah, I'm glad to hear. I've heard great things about it. I'm glad to hear you felt the same way, that it's really good too.
Yeah.
So that'll be what I put on my list. I'm looking for something to watch. And going back to Spielberg, you were right, Dane. It was just Jurassic Park at Schindler's List, and then The Lost World in '97.
Wow. Wow. That's a lot of movies.
It's definitely a well-deserved break. I mean, like
Right.
you said, doing those two movies in the same year, being totally different
I know.
emotionally for him. So, but then after that, he went on. It was The Lost World, Jurassic Park, Amistad. I don't remember that one.
Oh, yeah, the slave ship, I think. It's like a slave ship movie or something.
Yeah.
Can't
And
remember.
Saving Private Ryan was the next big one, probably after that.
Yeah. And just real quick, Tim, I also saw. Now you're not gonna believe this, Tim. I actually watched a Adam Sandler movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it the new one?
Yeah, Uncut Gems.
Yeah.
It is actually he is really good in it.
That's what I've been hearing. Yeah.
That was impressive. I'm thinking of, Adam Sandler, The Water Boy. And this is completely different. Oh man, yeah, but yeah, it's a good movie. You should, if you're curious, Tim, you should really watch it. It's actually one of the most stressful movies I've ever watched.
Really?
Yeah, ever seen. Yeah.
Was him being a sports gambler, right?
Yeah, he gambles. That's not his profession. He's just addicted to gambling. But he owns a jewelry store.
Okay.
Right, and then he gets this secret gem thing from these Jewish people in Ethiopia. These African Jews, as he calls them.
Okay.
And Kevin Garnett, the basketball player?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he sees it, or he comes into Adam Sandler's shop and sees it and wants to he wants to buy it at first. And then Adam Sandler's like, no, it's going to go to auction and I'm going to get $1 million for it. And then Kevin Garnett goes, well, how about if I just hold it for the night? And as collateral, I'll give you my NBA championship ring. So he does. And then Adam Sandler immediately gets cash for it and then places bets on I can't remember if it's several games or just one game, one Kevin Garnett basketball game. I think he was playing with the Boston Celtics. And it just snowballs and snowballs and snowballs from there. Adam Sandler trying to get money, trying to get the ring back, trying to get the gem back. But yeah, it is one of the most stressful movies I've ever seen. That's why I do not bet on anything. I do not gamble. It's crazy, but it's a really good movie.
Okay, it did look interesting. But from how you're describing it, it's not what I was expecting it to be.
Yeah. And like I said, Adam Sandler is really, really good for it. Good in it. Sorry.
I do know Mike Francesa from Mike and the Mad Dog, the sports radio New York talk show that I used to listen to all the time.
Yeah.
It's in that movie.
Yeah, he plays the book. Yeah.
Okay, so he's not playing himself. He's actually playing a character.
Yeah, he's playing a character.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's funny. I'll check it out eventually too.
Yeah.
But I guess moving on from movies to TV shows that I've been binging or ones that you could start watching as well. And again, not going to go to the basics. I could just say, oh, watch Clone Wars, watch Batman the Animated Series and all that. Well, you should if you haven't watched it yet. But going to go in for some stuff that's a little different, but still available on stuff like Disney Plus or the DC Universe app. And as usually with me, I'm going to go more as the animated route. And you'll probably go with more live action or drama routes, Dane, to recommend. But for me, now, Dane, I don't know if I talked to you much about this old animated show. I can't remember if we did or not. But have you ever watched Gargoyles when it was on TV?
Yeah.
You did watch it?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. Because that is one that is now on Disney Plus, and I've been wanting to start rewatching that again. Because when Disney Plus first came out, I was going to all these different shows, just like watching a few minutes of it, and I wanted to get suckered right back into that to watching the Gargoyles. But I haven't done it yet, but that's probably something I'm going to do very soon because I've been itching to go back into that show. And Wit is probably one of the best animated shows you're going to find. It's fantasy based. It's dark. It goes into a lot of Shakespeare, Arthurian legend aspects to its plot. It's just really, really great characters, really great stories. And I think ahead of its time, really, with some of the content or mature content that it would sometimes put out there in some of its episodes, which was on the Disney afternoon block, mixed in with shows like DuckTales and Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers. So it was kind of felt out of place among there. If I remember right, I think it started its first season only on Fridays, but its second season was every day, I believe. So yeah, if you haven't checked out that show, it's kind of getting more buzz on Twitter now that it is available to watch. And Greg Weisman was behind the show. Probably the first show I watched of his, and just kind of seen firsthand there what a great showrunner he would be. And he's kind of been tweeting about it, saying, keep watching it, use the hashtag. You never know, it could be revived if a lot of people are watching it on Disney Plus. So I got to become one of those people again and start watching it, because I've been wanting to relive that show for a while. But I had the DVDs, but it's kind of something where they're kind of stored away and inconvenient just to go try to find them and look for the disc. And it took a while just for the final volume to come out for the second season. So I've been waiting for it to become available on streaming. And now that it is, I got to start watching again, especially that second season. It is so good. It has one of the best villains from a concept and a costume design. The character, the Hunter, he has such a cool look with his mask that it's just almost like an executioner's mask, but it has these 3 claw marks on it, marked in the color red to symbolize blood, because he was scratched by a gargoyle in his face, and that's what made him become the Hunter. But it's just such a cool looking design that I think is underrated when it comes to cool looking costume villains. I just love the look of the Hunter, and eventually Hunters, as you make your way through the series. So if you never watched Gargoyles, it's something you definitely got to check out. And if you like Batman the Animated Series, you'll definitely love Gargoyles, because they're similar in some ways. And you even had some of the crew that worked on Batman the Animated Series worked on Gargoyles. I believe one of the directors, Frank Parr, from Batman the Animated Series, was a director, and I think one of the producers on Gargoyles. So you can definitely see some similarities there, but definitely something you got to check out now that's available on Disney Plus, and I cannot wait to watch it again. But one show on the complete opposite.
Hey Tim, can I say something real quick?
Oh yeah, go for it.
Because on the Gargoyles topic, when I was a kid watching that show, I thought that was made by the same people that did Batman the Animated Series.
See?
Right. Right. It's so similar in aesthetic.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
No, yeah, you're definitely right. So they complement each other nicely, I would think.
Yeah.
But on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, one show that I have been watching or reliving again, I haven't seen in forever, but when I saw it, I was like, I want to see the first episode. I remember it being funny. And yeah, now I've been suckered to watching every episode. Like when I eat dinner or something, I need something to watch while I eat, I put an episode on. And that is Darkwing Duck. The greatest Disney superhero probably you're going to see that is created before they acquired Marvel. But in that DuckTales universe, Darkwing Duck, it doesn't get any better than him. Man, I forgot how funny that show was.
Didn't really watch it as a kid. I gotta be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See, I remember watching it a lot, but I didn't remember a lot of the episodes. Not like I did DuckTales, because I would always rewatch DuckTales here and there, like when those DVDs came out. But not with Darkwing Duck. But watching it again, I forgot how funny it is. He's just that goofball hero who thinks he's the best, but yet he really can't do anything right. Or he does in the end, of course. He saves the day and stops the villains, but he bumbles along the way and makes constant mistakes. It's just funny to watch. And his lineup of villains, it's really good. I mean, you think of great heroes with villains, Spider-Man, Batman, you got to throw Darkwing Duck in there. Some of his villains are kind of ripoffs of other superhero villains like Batman and Spider-Man. I mean, he has a character who's a clown jester. I mean, that could be his Joker. He has a plant-based villain. He has an electricity-based villain. But he has a water villain. But they're all so uniquely designed and make good foils for him to go up against. That's both, as a kid, you like watching that type of fun action, but as an adult, you kind of appreciate the more subtle jokes and comedy aspect of it, more so than being enthralled by the action of it, so to speak, than you would as a kid. But you just appreciate some of the in jokes that they would have in there now, and it's still very entertaining. So Darkwing Duck is another show I'm making my way through with Disney Plus. And then also on the documentary side of things, Disney Plus has a great one about the Imagineer. That's the Imagineering story. I don't know if you watched any episodes of that, Dane, but that is really good. Just going into the history of the Imagineers and how they came up with the different rides and theme parks through the Disney, first with Disneyland and Disney World and all the other Disney parks that sprung up all over the world, and just the process of what it went into developing those parks for each different culture, making sure, it's acceptable for that, and then coming up with the rides. It was just really fascinating to see. There's about 7 or 8 episodes. So I would definitely recommend watching that as a short series to binge and just get an inside look of how all these cool attractions in Disney parks came to be. So I would throw that in there too. And then throw in some on the DC side of things, some underrated shows that are available to watch that sometimes don't get mentioned a lot. I got to mention Justice League Action, which is on Hulu. That is such an underrated DC animated series. It's kind of in vain to Brave and the Bold, but more with just all the different Justice League characters. But it's well written. It's well voice acted. We talk about it sometimes here on the episode, on our show when the episodes are first airing, but kind of came and went. And I remember saying it got lost in the time slot, so I didn't know when the heck it was airing. So it would be airing, and I didn't know it. Wouldn't know it. I would miss episodes. So now that it's all available on Hulu, I have watched all of them. And again, it's just a really great underrated show. Just a lot of fun with the DC characters. And you got Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill voicing Batman and Joker. So you can't go wrong with that. So I would throw that in for the DC side of things. But those are some of the animated TV shows and one documentary that I've been watching lately.
All on Disney Plus.
Everything except Justice League Action. Yeah.
Most on Disney Plus. So sticking with that theme, the three shows I've been binge watching recently are all in German.
Oh, really?
So So the first one is Babylon Berlin.
Okay.
On Netflix. Takes place in the Weimar Republic before the Nazis took over. It's a detective story, because I don't know if you know, but Germany before the Nazis had one of the best police detective, I don't know, agencies, I don't know what you call it, departments in the world during the Weimar Republic, which I thought was really interesting. So yeah, I've been watching that show. That show's a trip. I've been watching Das Boot on Hulu, sort of a sequel to the Wolfgang Petersen movie. Not so good, but still good enough. And then I've been watching Deutschland 83, which is takes place during the Berlin Wall situation, where a Stasi officer is sent to the West, and he has to get some information or get some intelligence. All in German. It's really hard reading German or reading subtitles in English when they're speaking German. It is because they speak really fast. And
the subtitles go really quick too.
The subtitles go really quick. So especially when they're talking about like spy technology or a thing on a submarine, it's really hard to keep up with it.
You find yourself pausing it or rewinding it.
And then I find myself turning it off and being like, you know what? I just have to watch something in English where I don't have to read it really fast. So. Those are the 3 shows I've been watching. All in German. I don't know why it just happened.
It just grabbed you, huh? It just got your interest.
It just happened that way.
See, I knew you were going to go some completely opposite with my animated shows and cartoon series. That's what makes it great, the different choices that you now have for shows to watch. So
yeah, there's shows and movies everywhere now. So
yeah, and you can't forget about comics. So I'm going to go ahead and list some of comics that I think you should read in some that I read not too long ago. So, first off, I'm going to go on the Marvel front / Star Wars. And I'm sure I mentioned this on past shows, but if you're looking for one comic series in a completed run to read while you're stuck at home and you're interested in the Star Wars and want more lore added to characters, go read Charles Soule's Darth Vader run. It's only 25 issues, but man, is it some of the best Star Wars you're going to read. It is available on Marvel Unlimited. Everything I'm going to mention here is available on Marvel Unlimited and the DC Universe app, except one, but I'll get to that. But I think first and foremost, I would recommend that Darth Vader run by Charles Soule. It is just so good. It takes place immediately after Revenge of the Sith. So you see how Darth Vader is just kind of coping with everything immediately after his battle with Obi-Wan. And the first arc has to deal with him trying to find his, or not trying to find, but for him to build his Sith lightsaber, finding the hilt, burning the crystal to get the red blades, and all that stuff is just really good. And then you get different arcs throughout the 25-issue run that deals with him finding a hunting down of the Jedi, building his castle that you see in Rogue One. Just a lot of great stuff that just adds more to the lore of Star Wars and just Darth Vader as a character. So I highly recommend that. Dane, I don't know if you subscribe to Marvel Unlimited, but if you do, you definitely got to check this out. I cannot recommend that series enough. It might be the best Star Wars comic ever.
Really?
Yeah.
One thing I've always been curious about, especially watching A New Hope as an adult, is in that movie in particular, Vader is he's a middle manager. He is not a leader. I mean, he does have people under him, but it seems like he answers to somebody else. So he's like a mid-level manager. He reports to a supervisor, it seems like.
Yeah, that being Tarkin.
Sure, right. Do they get into that in the series?
Not in
the
that
comic
series. No. You probably have to. The Tarkin novel that was one of the first new canon novels that came out, that deals into that whole aspect of it. They kind of go on a mission together.
Oh, I see.
It builds up that relationship.
Because, I mean, I have this theory that, and I'm not sure if there's a novel or comic series or they're going to get into it in an animated series or whatever. But I have this theory, Tim. I don't know if you heard of it before, but I have this theory that in between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, Vader to the Emperor, because Tarkin died, right? On the first Death Star. I have this theory that Vader trash talked Tarkin a whole lot during that in-between period. Like, no, Alderaan, that was all Tarkin. I had nothing to do with that. That was all Tarkin. That little compartment on top of our Death Star that could blow up the entire Death Star, that was Tarkin's idea. I mean, I told him to cover it up. I told him on 3 separate occasions to cover that hole. But he said, no, nobody's going to find out. You see? So that's my theory.
There are comics, not this Darth Vader series I'm talking about by Charles Soule, but the first Darth Vader comic series takes place immediately after A New Hope and kind of deals with the aftermath and how Palpatine deals with Vader's failure on the Death Star.
Yeah.
So, but he doesn't actually trash talk Tarkin or push the blame to him. He just kind of accepts it and vents his frustration in other ways, but not in front of Palpatine.
So then why is he more in a position of power in Empire and Jedi?
He had to work his way back up because part of his punishment, Palpatine does put him under another Imperial officer that you see in The New Hope. General Tag, I believe it was. He was one of the one who you hear him talking to New Hope in the conference room table. Not Mahdi who gets choked by Vader, but the other one who's talking about the power of the Death Star.
Okay. No, I was just wondering because I don't know. It's just a weird switch of power in between the movies, and I was like, okay, so Vader ratted out Tarkin, and that's why he is the new leader
He pretty much had to prove himself again to Palpatine.
Oh, I see.
But another good Star Wars comic that just finished, actually, and this is the one that's not on Marvel Unlimited just yet, but it will be in a few months, was The Rise of Kylo Ren limited series. And it's only 4 issues, and it's really good. I can't say it's great like Charles Soule's Darth Vader run, and this is written by Charles Soule also. The first 2 issues are amazing. They just start off really great, diving into Kylo's training as a young Jedi with Luke. You see Luke take on the Knights of Ren, which is incredible. But the last 2 issues, there were some great moments in there, but it just didn't quite stick the landing. And the last issue felt a little too rushed, in my opinion, as far as checking off certain boxes that you wanted to see Kylo Ren do, or to show him become and have certain things that we see in The Force Awakens. And they didn't even get to one of them. And I won't spoil it here, but there were certain things where it just felt, okay, we have to put this in there to show that how he got this and how he became that. But still some great moments in there, and overall I would highly recommend it. I still think it's probably a must read for fans of Kylo Ren and just to learn more about the character. And again, it's only 4 issues, but I think reading it all 4 issues in one sitting, you'll just get a greater appreciation for where this character is coming from. So that's another really good one for one of the more recent comics. And then if I can go way back into Marvel's category. This is not Star Wars related, but have you heard of the character Darkhawk, Dane?
No, I haven't.
He's from the early 90s, and I first heard of him and saw him when I was collecting Marvel trading cards. And he has a really cool costume. It's this robotic costume. He has a cool helmet, and it really stood out to me. But I never got a chance to read the comics. I always just got my information from him from the back of the trading cards in the early 90s. But I would say last summer, I started reading the Darkhawk comics on Marvel Unlimited, and I really liked it. He became a cool character. He's a teenager who finds this stone that gives him the suit, and it's kind of similar to superhero tropes where you see him dealing with this new power and what he's about to do with it. But I think the good aspect of it comes from dealing with his family situation and what he's dealing with his father being a police officer and what goes on with that, and his brother being a lawyer and being threatened by crime bosses. So a lot of stuff that adds into him becoming or dealing with him being a superhero, what he has to do with that power mixed in with some of the family stuff that's going on, mixing in with his superhero abilities too. So that was a good read. I always wanted to read and learn more about that character. And when I finally did, I liked what I read and felt they should be a character who should be kind of used more, not just in comics, but maybe if the MCU ever gets to more characters they want to adapt, I think Darkhawk should be one of them. He has a cool costume and I think a cool origin story that would work well, whether it's a TV show or a movie. But he's a character I think if you're not too familiar with him, you should check out those early comics from the 90s. And there's cool crossovers that he has with other Marvel characters like Venom. So that's one I would recommend too if you're looking for a new superhero to discover. Not new, but maybe one you haven't heard of. And then last one I'll mention, and you'll be very familiar with this, Dane, but I actually went and reread some of the issues, and I felt it's just worth recommending again because I don't think it gets talked about enough. And that is Greg Hurwitz's Dark Knight run from 2011, 2012. In particular, issues 12 through 21, which are his origins for the Scarecrow and the Mad Hatter. And in particular, the Mad Hatter. That's one I just reread a few days ago, and it's still really good. I'm just really impressed with the origin he gave for the Mad Hatter and Jervis Tetch. And you and me gave praises to it, Dan, when we were reviewing it on the show. And just rereading it again just made me think, yeah, man, this was probably the definitive origin story for the Mad Hatter. Either this one or the Batman the Animated Series classic episode, Mad as a Hatter. But this one really creates more of an understanding and not necessarily, maybe a little sympathetic, but when you see the vile stuff Mad Hatter does in the present, and then you see in the flashback that comes in that issue, just wondering how can this character become that? And Greg Hurwitz does a good job of showing the downfall of Jervis Tetch, because it's not your typical super villain origin story where he had a terrible childhood. It's actually quite the opposite, and it makes for a different take, but one that works really well with the character. So if you haven't read the Dark Knight series, I mean, a lot of it's not great, but once Greg Hurwitz came aboard and did his thing with the Scarecrow and the Mad Hatter. It was some fantastic stuff. So if you haven't read those, definitely check those out on the DC Universe app. They're all there, issues 12 through 21. I don't think you'll be disappointed with those Scarecrow and Mad Hatter stories. So yeah, those are some of my comic recommendations. So I don't know if you have any, Dane, new or old, maybe that you want to recommend that maybe some listeners or people aren't aware of.
Not really. No, I think I'm okay.
But I'm sure you'll second my take on Greg Hurwitz's Dark Knight run, right?
Yeah, I would. Definitely avoid the first part of it.
Yeah.
The first part of the Dark Knight series, but definitely pick up the Greg Hurwitz Dark Knight.
Yeah, and again, it's all there on the DC Universe app. Once they had that big old update with all the comics they put on there, most of the stuff anyway that I was looking for is there now. So you should be able to find a lot of good old comics that maybe you're not too familiar with on both Marvel Unlimited and the DC Universe apps.
Right.
And then lastly, I guess to talk about some video games. And I know on some previous episodes, Dane, you said you haven't had too much time to play video games. I'm not sure if that's gotten better for you, but one of the games we've obviously been talking about the last few episodes was Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, and I actually just beat it yesterday.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Oh.
And man, I love this game. I went into it looking forward to playing it, but I didn't think I'd end up being addicted to it and loving it as much as I did. I just really love the RPG elements and just building up your characters, because Dragon Ball as an anime and manga, it's just meant for the RPG genre in video games. The whole premise of the show is pretty much just characters getting stronger, learning new abilities and techniques, and I think the game really captured that. So I just found myself wanting to level up my characters, find these different items, and fight these enemies, because the combat is really fun. And when you learn these new abilities and these new power-ups, it's just fun to put them in action when you're fighting battles. So sometimes I leveled my characters up too high, or they were no match for me. I'd win these battles 1, 2, 3, but that's what I love about it at the same time too. That's what Dragon Ball Z is all about. So that was awesome. It was fun to relive the story again. I loved it so much, and the graphics were really great. So I really, really like this game, and I beat it, but yet I'm still going to be playing the side quests and leveling up the characters, getting all the achievements. That's how much I love the gameplay aspect of it, and how much I was addicted to it, because I just can't get enough of it right now. So I'll probably be playing it until Final Fantasy VII Remake. I think there's enough content to keep me busy until that game comes out. But yeah, I really loved it. I would recommend that one if you're looking for a game to keep you busy for a while, because there's definitely a lot to do, and the combat is fun. I will say, I know some people gave criticism in the reviews as far as some of the side quests being a little tedious, and I can see that. And maybe if you're not a huge Dragon Ball Z fan like I am, some of the side quests will get that way for you. But if you are a fan, I think you'll still enjoy it, and just that fun aspect of building up your character, I just really, really love. So curious if you've played it anymore, Dane, and if you have, how far you got into it. But I didn't even beat it just yet.
Yeah, I gave up on it.
No.
It was the controller scheme, and I didn't really know where to go, and the map wasn't very informative, and like I said in my review of it, it's the upgrade system. I just never got used to it.
Yeah, that was that way at first, where to me it seemed a little clunky, but the more I played it, the more I got used to it. It's not even an issue for me now. So, but I think you just kind of had to give it a little more time.
Yeah, I guess so. I just couldn't get into it.
That bummed me out. I was really wanting you to experience the Dragon Ball Z story.
Yeah, and plus too, I'm not really a fan of Dragon Ball Z. I'm probably the only millennial aged person that doesn't like Dragon Ball Z. Well,
now I got to put another TV show to recommend, Dane. You got to watch the Dragon Ball Z anime. If you're not going to play the game, you got to watch the TV show now.
Yeah, I just couldn't. I don't know. I just can't get into Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball series. I just can't do it. I don't know what it is.
Well, it can't be for everyone, but I pretty much, when I was playing through it again, just reminded me how much I love it. So and have that, it's for someone who's already familiar with the franchise so well. I think that's a testament to the game, to have me really enjoy it as much as I did, experiencing the story for the 100th time or so. But it still had that same impact for me as far as, man, this is just really, really good. And I just love these characters so much. So, but I was hoping it'd be that way for you, where someone who wasn't aware of it or familiar with the story would really get into the characters and the story with playing it. But bummed it didn't quite have that effect on you, Dane.
Yeah, just I again, like I said, I just don't know what it is. I just can't get into Dragon Ball. I know a lot of people are into Dragon Ball. A lot of my friends are into Dragon Ball. I just can't do it.
Hey, but you gave it a shot, though. So
I did. I
that's
tried.
all I can ask for.
I tried, Tim.
So yeah, those are some of the things, were TV shows, movies, comics, video games that we've been playing and would recommend for you to check out if you're looking for something to do to pass the time while you're stuck at home. So hopefully this gave you some new things to check out, whether it's binging all the animated DC movies, or not DC movies, Disney movies. You could binge the DC animated movies too, but binging the Disney animated movies from the beginning to the current times, or watching different German TV shows on Netflix where you have to read subtitles quickly. So you got a wide variety of options to choose from.
Speaking of watching German television shows, I did replay Wolfenstein.
Oh yeah. I got you in the mood for that after watching those.
Yeah. So yeah, I beat it again. That's my video game binge or whatever.
There you go, Wolfenstein.
Yeah.
All right, so with that, that'll do it for our featured topic. But going into one news story that we've got since our last episode, and this one I've been waiting for, and we finally got some details on it. And this is the Three Jokers comic series coming from Jeff Johns and Jason Fabok. And we finally got a release date. They've announced it a while ago, and we've been waiting, and it is coming out on June 17th. That is when the first issue will be released. And it's only 3 issues, so they wanted to make sure that once they announced the date, there wouldn't be any setbacks or delays with the other 2 issues. So that's kind of why it took so long. So it shouldn't be any delays now that we got this release date of June 17th. And Entertainment Weekly had an interview with Jason Fabok and Jeff Johns going into talking a little bit about the details regarding the story. Not too much. They want it to be a surprise, but they're really going off the big traumatic events that Joker has played with Batman, Jason Todd, and Barbara Gordon. So they'll be picking up on things from The Killing Joke and A Death in the Family. That's kind of been their inspiration for wanting to tell this story. And there's some preview images from Jason Fabok's art, which looks fantastic on there. It's not anything revealing with the Joker, but we're just, something bad's happening because we see Batman walking away from his parents' graves, all bleeding out, and he makes his way into the Batcave, and it focuses on Jason and Barbara's Robin and Batgirl costume in the cave, and some of Joker's equipment that Batman has kept, like the laughing fish, his gun, his flower, his laughing teeth. So it's making a point that showing in these preview images what the focus is going to be with Joker, Jason, Barbara, and Bruce Wayne. So I'm looking forward to this. This is one new DC event comic that I will be getting, and I'm excited for. So looking forward to it. It's been a long time coming, but hopefully it'll be worth the wait. So it won't be that much longer for June 17th. And that's about it for some DC news and Batman news to talk about on this episode. But getting into
not a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, news has
just
been kind of scarce on all fronts. I mean, a lot of it's just been,
why.
I know, a lot of it's been movie delays and TV show delays and production stopping. So we haven't gotten a delay for Wonder Woman yet, but I imagine that's eventually going to be coming. Yeah. I think there was a report yesterday that Warner Brothers might be discussing the possibility of releasing it digitally.
I thought I read that they said they weren't.
I think that came out not too long after, where they're still planning for a movie release. I think even Patty Jenkins or Gal Gadot kind of reaffirmed that, saying there's going to be a theatrical release. It's just a matter of when. So, yeah, like you said, not too much big news coming out. It's a lot of bad news, unfortunately.
Mm.
But other than that, I can get into not a comic book reviews, but a movie review, because I just saw the latest DC animated movie, Superman Red Son, and I'm going to be giving my review of that. And as always, now, as my comic book reviews have been limited, but we still got to give rating scales, whether I'm reviewing a TV show, movie, or a comic for future episodes. So what do you think, Dane? What should our review or rating scale be for this episode?
I think we should leave the coronavirus out of this.
Yeah.
It's bad enough.
Or how about times Tim washes his hands until they start looking like Emperor Palpatine?
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right, I'm going with that one.
The grossest hands in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I know now he's a clone, but they couldn't get the hands correct.
The hands and the eyes were the big problems.
I know. I mean,
for those cloners, maybe it wasn't the Kaminoans on Kamino. They were the best, and they couldn't get to them, so they had to use other cloners, and they weren't as good.
I guess. I mean, I would think that hands would be pretty important.
Well, using the Force lightning, maybe that complicated things a little bit with it too.
So, oh yeah, like broke off his fingernails. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what? Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith looks disgusting.
Which I think was George Lucas's intent.
Right. But in I guess the OT and Rise of Skywalker, he looks okay. He looks just like an old man. Like he doesn't have all the scarring anymore. Yeah,
well, once he's had a few years to heal or make himself look better, get rid of some of that scarring, maybe. And then Rise of Skywalker, once he sucks Rey's and Ben's life force, he looks how he was, like you said, in the original trilogy, pretty much.
Yeah.
He just didn't have time in Revenge of the Sith to have those scars that Mace Windu gave him heal up.
Yeah, one criticism of Rise of Skywalker, there wasn't really a cool lightsaber fight.
I really liked Rey's and Kylo's on the water on the second Death Star debris. I mean, it wasn't long, but I think there's some cool stuff that happened in there. And from a story standpoint and emotional standpoint, I think it's really, really good. Yeah,
I don't know. It was just the jumps for me.
See, that was some of the different aspects of it that I liked.
Yeah, it was for me. It was the Force jumps. It didn't really look that good. Also, gotta get the Knights of Ren in on something.
Yeah. No? Unfortunately, I was kind of expecting that to happen just because of my experience with Captain Phasma and The Force Awakens. Yeah. So they had a short action sequence, but they definitely could have done more. I think it would have been cool of seeing him take down Chewie once they got him captured. That would have been a cool little skirmish to see them be involved in.
Yeah, but how would they have gotten down from the ship?
What do you mean?
Oh no! Sorry, they weren't even on that ship. Right?
But yeah, because we see Chewie walk, then we see the Knights of Ren, like they come into the screen and they see Chewie and we know they're gonna take him, and then the next thing we see Chewie's captured. So they obviously had a fight, but we just didn't see it. That's something I wish we would have saw. Just to give them one more quick action sequence. I mean, it didn't have to be something too long, but just to give a little more something to do would have been nice.
And what's the name of the planet that the Emperor's on?
Exegol.
Exegol, right? Yeah. And the planet that the Resistance is on is
Agent. I think it's pronounced Agent Claus or Agent Claus.
Yeah.
Something to that effect, because they don't actually say it in the movie.
Oh, I see. I do like the meme going around about Luke Skywalker being the original social distancer.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
And so accurate, yes.
Yeah. But anyway, Superman Red Son. Sorry, I took us totally off subject.
Hey, it's par for the course for our show, so nothing new there. But yeah, so Superman Red Son. And I'll say right off the bat, I have not read the comic, so I was kind of going into it fresh and not knowing exactly what to expect. And I got to say, I absolutely love this movie. I think it's already up there as one of my favorites in the DC animated movie line. It just was really, really well done from a technical standpoint. The animation was really great. The fight sequences are really well done, as I've come to expect with these DC movies. The voice acting was good. Jason Isaac as Superman was fantastic. Diedrich Bader doing from Brave and the Bold fame as Batman is now Lex Luthor, and he did a great job as Lex. So that's all production-wise fantastic as always. But I just really, really like the story, and it made a great Elseworld stories for these DC characters that didn't play into your typical tropes that you get sometimes with Superman stories or DC stories. And they just did a real good job of changing things up, but making it make sense and work in this Elseworlds that's being told here, where Superman was his rocket landed in Russia, and he's pretty much working under the control of the Soviet Union. And I'll go into some spoilers here, but not too much. But
Tim, I missed the binge TV show I've been watching that's not in German.
Oh, nice. You got to mention it. Is it in Russian, though?
No. It has something to do with Russian or the Soviet Union. Fargo, season 3.
Oh, okay.
With Ewan McGregor.
I've heard great things about that show. In
It is
particular,
really good.
that season with Ewan McGregor. Yeah.
Yeah, he plays two characters. He plays twin brothers.
Okay.
One is successful and one is not so successful.
That's kind of similar to the Jesus movie he did, where he played Jesus and Satan.
What?
Yeah, I forget what it's called. I think it's just 40 Nights in the Wilderness or 40 Days in the Wilderness, but it's where he plays Jesus, and as Jesus is tempted by Satan in this time in the wilderness, Ewan McGregor plays as Satan too, and they're having these conversations with each other. It's that aspect of it is really well done, but it is kind of I'm just gonna say it's kind of a boring movie, where it's not dealing with the philosophical stuff with the devil and Jesus, and he comes to counter with this family, which kind of makes me think, Jesus was alone 40 days in the wilderness, but yet in this movie comes in contact with a family out there. So, but that stuff with Ewan McGregor playing off of himself was really well done.
What's this movie called?
I think it was 40 Days in the Wilderness.
40 Days in the Wilderness.
I might be wrong, but I think something to that.
When did it come out?
Came out maybe, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh, really? Last Days in the Desert.
That's what it's called? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I was way off then. But
wow.
Yeah, you'll probably see, if you see any fan-made Obi-Wan trailers, they use a lot of footage from the show because it's him in the desert.
Yeah,
or not show, but movie. But
yeah, he has the long Jesus hair and the beard and Yeshua. Oh, yeah, I guess that's just another name. Another name for Jesus. Well, there's only 4 people in the cast.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, it could be a little bit slow to get through, but there's some good moments in there. I wouldn't say it's necessarily great, though. I think Ewan McGregor probably would. If he did the whole Jesus story, I think he'd be good in it.
I did not hear about this movie.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Let's see. What kind of rating did it get? I mean, what kind of Rotten Tomatoes?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
77.
Not horrible.
%. Yeah.
I think it was one of those movies that had a limited release. I'm not sure if it really had a wide release.
Yeah, I guess you got to be religious,
Mm-hmm.
to really hear about this movie or whatever.
But yeah, if you're looking for more Ewan McGregor talking to himself, you got 2 options now: Fargo and Last Days in the Desert.
Mordecai. Ewan McGregor's in a lot of movies that I've never even heard of.
Yeah, he does do a lot. Some of them not all successful or very good. Like that way you just mentioned Mordecai, I heard is awful.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's that one with him and Johnny Depp, I believe.
Yeah, Johnny Depp. Oh, and he was in, I don't know if you know this, Tim, but he was in this movie called Star Wars The Force Awakens in 2015. Yeah.
Star Wars, you said? Not Star Trek?
Wars.
Okay.
Nope, Star Wars, Tim. It's a different one. It's not connected to Star Trek in any way.
Well, I'll have to look that up and put that on my stuff to binge because I've never heard of it.
Yeah, in 2019, he was in The Rise of Skywalker. Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker as Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Oh, and in 2020, Tim, and in 2020, you'll never believe it, but he was in this movie called Birds of Prey. I don't know if you ever heard of that one.
Is it one of those lame superhero movies that I can't believe are so popular these days?
It's out of that, or it's one of these small little indie movies that nobody's ever heard of.
Yeah, never heard of it either. It's hard to play.
Cameo.
It's hard to play up that aspect of not ever hearing of Star Wars or these superhero movies. I always can't help but laugh whenever I try to play it up, or I never heard of it. Especially when we're just talking about the Rise of Skywalker a bunch of times in this episode.
So in The Force Awakens, it was when Rey touches the lightsaber.
Yeah. Where he says, these are your first steps.
And in The Rise of Skywalker, it's at the end then.
Mm-hmm. Where he says, these are your final steps.
Yeah, right. Oh. I wonder if you recorded that at one time, or if you had to come back.
No, as well as we learned, if anything we learned about the production of the sequel trilogy, nothing was really planned. So I don't think JJ had the ending for Rise of Skywalker planned when he was doing Force Awakens.
You know, I really wonder how they got the Alec Guinness.
Well, they talked about that.
Oh, they
just
did?
Edited a bit of dialogue in New Hope where I believe he said afraid, and they just edited it down where it sounds like Rey.
Oh, I see.
So just Skywalker sound doing their magic, making a seamless transition to have new dialogue from Alec Guinness, which is awesome.
Yeah, but it must have been like the easiest day for you and McGregor. Just say, these are the first steps. You know, just whisper it like that.
Hey, why not have be involved with more Star Wars? I mean, have it be a real easy thing. Why would you pass that up?
Yeah. Did you see that Dr. Sleep movie?
No, I don't see much horror.
Yeah.
But it's a continuation from The Shining, right?
Yeah, I was about to say it's a continuation of The Shining. And I guess Ewan McGregor plays the little kid from The Shining.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Oh, anyway, yeah, that's our trek through Ewan McGregor's filmography.
Yeah, just in case you're wondering. Now you got more movies to check out if you want. But anyway, back to Superman Red Son. And why I love it so much.
We keep on getting. You see, the only reason why I brought it up, or I remembered it, is because there's a piece of dialogue in the movie where this guy is talking to Ewan McGregor, and he's saying that he's talking about Beethoven's Passionata, and he's saying how Lenin wouldn't have continued the revolution if he kept on listening to it.
Okay.
See, so that's what reminded me of it.
Gotcha. But
not John Lennon, of course.
I figured that. Yeah.
Vladimir.
I just had to make that clear, I guess, just in case.
Yeah. Just in case.
But yeah, so back to Superman Red Son.
Yeah.
Why I love it so much. I think they just did a great job of telling an Elseworld stories that was obviously expected to be different, but I also kind of expected it to follow its similar tropes for Superman stories, like I mentioned, where obviously Superman's in Russia, but Lois Lane is married to Lex Luthor. They're both in the U.S. And I thought, okay, Superman's going to meet Lois, which he does, and they're kind of start to kindle the romance that we all expected Superman and Lois to have in these stories. But that never happened. And I thought that was going to trigger something for him and Lex being enemies because she would leave Lex for Superman. But that wasn't the case. And I appreciated that. It just tells a different story that took place over several decades, which was I wasn't expecting, but worked really well also. Because it begins with Superman as a little kid being chased by bullies. And he's being protected by this version's Lana Lang, her name is Svetlana, and she helps him, but he tells her, I'm not afraid of the bullies. I'm just afraid of what I would do to them. And he reveals his power to her. And then later on, it shows how she tells him, oh, you got to reveal yourself to the Soviet Union and the state. And he does. And so he becomes under the man of Stalin. And that's where the first portion of the movie takes place, where there's these propaganda films of Russia showing that they have there's the Soviet Superman, as they're calling him. And the rest of the movie is the U.S. working with Lex, trying to counter that and come up with their own superhuman. Over the course of the decades, we see the different ways Lex and the U.S. government tries to deal with that with not much success. And so later on, Superman saves a falling satellite that was going to hit the U.S. He saves it, and that's his first time in the U.S. revealing himself there. And he has a conversation with Lois, and Lois gives him this confidential file that reveals, because he thinks, the Soviet Union is doing things the right way. And Lois reveals to him that that's not really the case, where the government actually has this secret gulag where that is keeping these slave labor camps. And goes there to find out if it's true. And it is true. And he is shocked to see that his government was doing that. And he actually sees Svetlana there, and he is shocked to see her in prison like this. She's dying, and she does end up dying. But when she does, she kind of tells him, you got to use your powers for the good of the world. And that's what kind of puts him on the path to do what the rest of the story is, where to bring the Soviet Union government control over the world, but kind of in the name of peace and for a better world. So I liked how it wasn't just Superman being under the Soviet Union's control and kind of being a villain and just this merciless dictator who's trying to expose his rule over the whole world. That's his eventual goal, is for his rule to be over the world, but it's coming from a place that you understood and with good intentions type of thing. Because when he found out about that secret gulag, he confronts Stalin and he actually kills him right there, knowing that this isn't the way to do things and his way will be better. And that's the course of, as we see in the decades the movie shows, of him expanding his rule and power over to other countries except the U.S. because he doesn't want to go there as a conqueror. He obviously doesn't hold the U.S. and their government in high regard and thinks it's going to collapse on itself. And that's what he's waiting for. But in the course of that, also a cool thing we got in the gulag, as he was seeing the horrors and the people were going through, he sees this little boy who tells him, so you can hear a leaf fall from miles away, but you couldn't hear our cries. And you see in this dark room that he's in, these bats fly away. And it's like, oh, okay, I know who this character is and what they're setting up here. Their version of Bruce and his family. His parents weren't murdered. They were just stuck in prison in this gulag. And he hates Superman for it, knowing that he was part of this government's control. He has all these superhuman abilities, and he didn't do anything to help them until now. So he always held this grudge for Superman. And Batman in this movie, while cool, he was just, there's no other way to say it, he was just a straight up terrorist, killing civilians and ruining Superman's museums and stuff that he set up in the cities, and just wanted to bring down his regime. And he had his own followers. But it made for a really cool action sequence with him luring Superman into that old imprisoned gulag underground. He was able to capture Wonder Woman, and that was what lured Superman to confront him. And there was this great fight sequence that Batman had against Superman as the whole room was filled with red lights, dampening Superman's power. And just, again, tip of the cap to the fight choreography and the action. And that was directed in this episode. Just well done. So Batman, it was kind of hard to see Batman this way as being someone who's a terrorist, but yet was still Batman in a sense. And that dynamic he had with Superman, it still felt like a Batman-Superman conflict with ideology just set to the extreme here. And Batman is able to subdue Superman and has him captured. And he throws him into this underground basement with red lights. But since he had Wonder Woman captured with the lasso, she's able to break free, and she gets Superman free too. And Batman, seeing there's no other way out, commits suicide and blows himself up. He had a bomb implanted into him. So they're just, like I said, going to the extremes with this Batman Superman dynamic. But I just liked how the grudge and hatred he had for Superman just worked so well. And some that I just really bought into were, one of my complaints about Batman versus Superman. It's hard to make this comparison, but I couldn't help but think while watching it where, it was hard to justify Batman's hatred for Superman that he had in that movie. While certain aspects I could see, certain aspects of it felt like it's a little too much. While he would hate Superman this much to want to kill him, but in this movie, like I said, things were taken to the extreme here, and it just worked really well when you're trying to tell the story of Batman trying to kill and take down Superman. It has to be at that extreme level, which I felt BVS didn't quite have to work fully, but in here, I felt it really did. It's kind of one of those things. Maybe that type of story of Batman wanting to kill Superman and take him down can only be told in this type of Elseworld scenario where it could really work and you would buy into it like I did here. So that's just one of the aspects I loved about the movie, and just how it took these classic DC characters like Wonder Woman, and then what they did with Green Lantern was really cool too. How the government got their hands on Abinsur's ship and the ring before it could find Hal Jordan, but they brought in Hal Jordan as a captain of the Air Force to bring him in on this project to study the ring and weaponize it and pretty much mass produce it to replace the Air Force with the Earth's Green Lantern Corps. So there's this cool sequence where you would normally see the U.S. Air Force go into battle. Instead, you see the Green Lanterns, where you can see Guy Gardner, Hal Jordan, Jon Stewart voiced by Phil Lamar again, which was great, obviously, from Justice League. So it was cool hearing him as Jon Stewart again. But there is a cool action sequence with them going up against Superman with this Green Lantern Corps that don't have the typical Green Lantern costumes, but is more like old fighter pilot costumes, and it looked really cool. So just the way it adapted different aspects of the DC universe into this different story, I just felt worked really, really well. Then you throw in the main conflict with Brainiac, and that's one of the other things I liked about it. You think, as I'm watching it, okay, this is all going to end up to eventual confrontation with Superman invading the U.S., going up against Lex Luthor, who's been trying all these different things to take him down. He even created his own version of their Superman, their version of Bizarro, which was Superior Man, which was just a mix of a clone of Lex and Superman, which made for another great action sequence. But you just liked how it showed these different avenues Lex was trying to take down this version of Superman throughout the decades, and you would think it's going to come to this final confrontation between them two, but it doesn't. It turns out to be something totally different that involves Brainiac that I felt worked really, really well. So there's just a lot of aspects that I loved about this movie. The story of it being an Elseworlds and what it would be like if Superman his ship didn't crash in the U.S., but he was in another country, and how that affect the world and all these different DC characters. It was just a really fascinating look to see how different things would be for these characters if stuff like that happened, and not falling into normal superhero movie tropes that I was expecting and was really appreciated that they didn't do. And again, I'm not sure if this is how it played out in the comic because I haven't read it, but now I really want to see how different things are, because I have heard some reviews say they did do things differently than how it was in the comics. So now I'm curious to see what those are, just to experience the story again in the comics. So looking forward to doing that. So yeah, I loved it. The story was great. Characters were great. Voice acting was great. The action was great. The animation was really well done. The character designs were really great. The action sequence were really fluid. So just everything about it I loved. The only negative thing I will say about it, it does go off, or starts off a little bit slow. It takes a while for it to get going, but it all ends up working well in the overall story, showing how the Superman came to be, his power, how he came to grow in his power in the Soviet Union, and how he expanded that power over the world. So it is a little bit of a slow build up till we get to some of the more action and superhero stuff that we're accustomed to seeing in these type of stories. But again, it's just a minor nitpick. So to score it, I'm going to go ahead and give it a 4.5 out of 5 times that I'll be washing my hands before they start ended up like Emperor Palpatine in The Rise of Skywalker. So they're going to look pretty bad because I really like this movie. So I would definitely put this in the recommendations for movies to check out if you haven't seen yet. I thought it was really, really well done. Definitely one of the better DC animated movies. It's going to be up there as probably in my top 10, or I don't know if it'll be top 5 just yet, but it's going to be up there when I think about some of my all-time favorites. It was just really, really good.
I am renting it right now.
Awesome. Yes. Are you familiar with the comic much at all?
No, I mean, I know it's
yeah, you know of it. You just haven't read it.
Yeah.
It's the same boat as me. Yeah.
I know the basics of it.
Yeah, I think you'll really like this one, Dave.
And it is rented. Okay, so I know so I guess you guys know what I'm doing.
Yes.
After this.
And I'll look forward to hearing what you think of it when you see it.
Yeah. So that's it, right?
Yeah, that's it for this one.
Wow, that was not much. Went through Ewan McGregor's filmography. I almost said discography.
He might have that too. You never know.
Yeah. We talk about a bunch of television shows, movies, comics, and the Three Jokers. So, still, there is some stuff to be positive about, right, Tim?
Yeah. Always gotta look for the positive in things. So
right.
Hopefully this will be some stuff to keep you guys busy and that you're looking for to pass the time. So hopefully we gave you some new options to check out.
Yeah. So, like we say, first we gotta say everything else first.
Don't get too far ahead.
Yeah. Go to the BatmanUniverse.net, Facebook.com/BatmanUniverse, Twitter handles @BatmanUniverse. Tim's Twitter handle is @TimG311. I will say it.
Thank you, Dane. We just had 311 days, so I appreciate that.
And my Twitter handle is @DaneSaysBanana. Rate and reviews on iTunes. You can email the show at batfanswithoutpants@gmail.com. And the show's Twitter handle is @Batman's Podcast. So like we say at the end of every single episode, Tim.
We love each and every one of you with all of our bat and quarantine hearts.
Oh, that's a good one. We'll see you guys next time.
See you next time, everybody. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll get through this together.
And wash your hands.
Yes.
Make your hands look like Palpatine's hands.
If you could take anything away from this episode, it's that. Wash your hands until they look like Palpatine's.